Hello, everybody. Welcome to More to the Picture Than Meets the Eye. I'm John Horrigan, and we're behind the lens with legendary sports photographer Steve Babineau. And this episode, the Big Bad Bruins. But before we go, let's just talk a little bit about Babs here. Almost 50 years of sports photography, Boston Bruins, NHL, World Hockey Association, Boston Celtics, Boston Red Sox, Westerns, college hockey, concerts, Neil Young, Pearl Jam, and more. Babs, how are you, buddy? Welcome.
How you doing, buddy? How are you?
Great. Thanks for, this is our 7th episode together, and it's going to be a good one. It's going to be called the Big Bad Bruins, okay? And I want to get right into this particular photo. Who's this guy, and who's he holding?
This is Don Grapes Cherry, and he's holding my first son, Christopher, at our apartment in Medford, Massachusetts, when I kind of got called in. I was at a practice, and they had an equipment manager whose nickname was called Tattoo, and he came up to me at the Garden and said, "Are you Steve Babineau?" And I go, "Yeah." He said, "Coach wants to see you in his office." And it was kind of weird because I had never been in the Garden dressing room up to that point. I had never gone and opened the hallowed doors, is the way I called it. And I remember standing there pushing the doors, and Don was in his office reading the newspaper, and he knocked on the door, and I said, "Coach, I think you wanted to see me." And the paper stayed up, and he said, "Who are you?" And I go, "I'm Steve Babineau." And then he put the paper down, and he stood up, shook out his hand, shook my hand. He says, "Man, I just want to tell you that me and Rose, his wife, were down the Boards and Blades Club the game before, and they had seen these 16 by 20 images that the Bruins had purchased from me of his team. And they were hanging in this new club, which was dedicated to the season ticket holders. And I was just blown away. He just, and I said, "Coach, do you want something? You want any of those?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's pretty good." And then he turned to me and he goes, "Where do you live?" And I go, "Well, I got an apartment in Medford, Massachusetts." And he goes, "What are you doing Sunday?" And I was like, "Nothing. How about Rose and I come over and we sit down and we look at some pictures?" And I was just freaking out. It was just unbelievable. And I remember going up and buying an orange cone and sticking it out front because I heard he had a Lincoln Continental car, and I wanted to make sure he had a place to park. And he literally came to our apartment and sat on the kitchen sofa, and I took up my slide projector and I projected pictures up of the Bruins, and he just sat there and he had comments about Peter McNabb and Bobby Schmatz and Stan and Taz. And, after I got done showing these Bruins pictures, he says, "Do you have any other teams?" And I go, "Yeah." And I had these rotary trays that had Chicago Blackhawks, Montreal Canadiens, Toronto Maple Leafs. And he wanted to look at every team. And, usually with every team, there was always one or two guys that he had a comment about, talent-wise, or a tough guy. And it was just unbelievable. And I think that, so that he really opened the door for me with the players, the team. I remember the next time I went into the Garden, he'd introduced me, brought me into the locker room and introduced me to Terry and Cheevers and Chief. And I was just blown away. It was just unbelievable. So he was a huge help for me to get my foot in the door with the team. And he saw something in the photography that he liked. And, he said, I remember saying the clear words, "You captured my team in a way that I've never seen before."
Wow.
And, that was me tracking individual players, tracking, Schmatzy, tracking Taz, Jonathan, Wire, Wensick. I shot the game vertically, like I said before. You know what I mean? I just didn't shoot the game horizontally. And to this day, we've remained friends, and every time he sees me, comes over and chats with me and talks. And that led to, I remember him saying to me, "Anytime you want to come in the locker room, you come in the locker room." You know what I mean? And I didn't, you don't abuse it. You don't, you've got that open door policy. You go if you have something to do or say or give somebody, but you don't just hang out there. You know what I mean? And I never I never took advantage of that. And I realized that he knew that I wasn't doing that. I was, you know, and believe it or not, on the optional practice days, when they used to play at the Garden, optional practice days, he let me skate with the team. And, you know, it was pretty cool going out there. And there might only be 4, 5, 6 guys out there, but, you know, I was able to go out there and skate. And I think there's a picture of Ray and I here later on down the road here. So, but that was really after, like, Grapes had left. That was when Freddie Creighton came in after Don left. And I remember getting a stare from Freddie Creighton that day that I was on the ice with Ray and McCrimmon and Rogie Vachon and those guys. Like, who the heck is this guy? You know what I'm saying? So I said, okay, maybe the protocol of skating with the team on optional practice days has gone away right now because Don is not with us anymore. So I did that one skate that one time, and that was really it.
Yeah, and Fred Creighton only last half a season anyways.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it was just I just, you know, got this funny look, you know, there I was dressed head to toe in gear, and it's like, you know, who is this? But, you know.
Were you a call-up? He's like, do I have this guy?
Yeah.
All right.
But unbelievable. Don was just unbelievable, and every time I see him, you know, he wrote the intro to Black and Gold for me. I called him up.
Did he?
About that.
Wow.
You know, so, you know, this is the type of thing. I'd be at a practice, you know, and the guys would be practicing, and here they were. Some of them were wearing their gamers, and some of them were in practice jersey. And that's Don's son there in the middle. And, you know, next thing you know, I'm over on the visiting team's bench. And it's like, you know, I get called over. Al Secord me and I were good buddies, used to come to my house, you know, every once in a while and play floor hockey with the kids. And Seaweed's there, Jim Petty, Dwight Foster, Nifty. I think that's Nifty in the back with Bobby Schmatz.
And that's Secord in the front with a 6 on his jersey?
Secord's got a 6 on that jersey. That's just a jersey. It's, you know, but Bobby Miller's got his head right next to Grapes there with his son. But I mean,
and who's the guy doing the forearm shiver right in front of Nifty?
Schmatzy is doing that, and Seaweed Petty's the goaltender. Dwight Foster. Yep. But I mean, that's the thing. I might show up at a practice just to get some candid shots, some different shots. You know, that, you know, I didn't need to be there. I was going in there on my own, but they'd see me. You know what I mean? And then the guys in those days, I remember when we took the team photos, it's like they wanted to get a picture with certain guys after a team photo, and I always accommodated it, set things up, and got some really classic behind the scene group shots, you know, after a team photo. You know what I mean? It was like unbelievable, you know. So we don't do that today, but, you know, a couple of guys have asked me, but, you know, in those days it was like almost regimental. Every after team photo, there was like 3 or 4 guys wanted to get their picture together, and this guy wanted to get his picture with this guy wanted to get his picture with that guy. And you know, he was awesome. He was really, really awesome as a coach and as a friend.
Well, that's great. And he went big time. So now here he is coaching, Babs, okay?
Yeah, this is coaching, and with the 76 patch on the shoulder there, and right in front of Don, you can see Andre Savard there. You got Schmatzy, Chief.
Is that Hank Nowak or Savard? Who is that?
That's Andre Savard.
Okay.
And I think Nowak is maybe next to Haji, or they had a guy by the name of Smith too. I think Barry Smith or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
That's him next to Haji, who's standing. Dougie Hallward's at the end there, and that's Dave Reese, the goaltender. Nowak is number 18. Schmatzy's there. I think that's John Rattel, Doki, and Chief, I think. 19. I can see 19, but I'm blocked by your head, so I can't see who that is. But that's got to be Doki, and Dan Canny's on the far right there. But, I mean, that would have been my position.
Greg Shepard.
Yeah. Dave Forbes is standing up behind Schmatzy. But that would have been my position at the Garden, at a hole, slightly on a curve, going around the corner of the net, towards the corner of the net, which gave me that luxury of shooting that angle to the bench and also leaning to the right into center ice on the red line. And, you know, I didn't have in those days, you know, that would have been 74, 75, 75, 76. You know, I had a minimal length of lens, probably a 135 millimeter. And then I eventually went to an 80 to 200 millimeter. But, you know, that gave me half of the ice surface to capture available light photography, at the old classic garden.
Wow.
So
Wow.
pretty cool.
And you said that was Dallas Smith, the third from the right there, putting his leg over the boards?
Yeah, that's Dallas Smith. Yep, Dallas Smith. You got Doki, Dallas Smith, Shepard, Schmatzy, Forbesy right there at the very end.
Andre Sorg. And then here's another one. You got Cash on the bench, Winsink. This is Big Bad Bruins. Jonathan there, Doki with a helmet.
Right. This would have been me, slightly elevated, maybe 12 or 13 rows up. There was that walkway that went all the way around the garden, from the load seats that came from the glass down. There was a narrow, I don't want to say narrow, it kind of was narrow walkway. And then behind to that, the walkway, they were they called them grandstand seats. They were underneath the balcony. So this would have been me probably in that walkway, on a milk crate, just getting a different look, different angle, slightly looking down. But again, there's grapes in packed house in the building. And yeah, you got Shepard, Jonathan, Doki, Cash, Wensink, Maxie McNabb, Dave Forbes.
Is that Forbes with a lungie? It looks like he caught a lungie there.
Yeah, Forbes coughing up something there. And, Allwood to the left.
Oh, wow. Great picture. And grapes wouldn't be caught dead wearing a nice suit like that anymore.
Yep.
And here's another one.
This is up in Montreal. And it's almost like I want to think that this is the game when we had too many men. I'm not 100% sure. I went looking for it, but, I'm looking. I can see Secord on the bench there, and can't really see too many other people. But Don looks like he's a little aggravated there, for sure. And he's looking into my corner. But this is definitely the Montreal Forum, because you can see the sign down on the very end there over the vomitory exit there at ice level. And, I might have went up there another game and shot, the Bruins on the road. But for some reason, this just kind of stuck out at me when I first saw it. That was a tough night because I had to drive home after that game and back to Boston. And I remember I had a buddy with me, and we kept saying probably 150, 200 times, too many men on the ice, too many men on the ice. Can you believe it? But they had a great team that year. They had a great team, and Montreal had a great team too. So, you hate to see a situation like that for a penalty that, if it was more of a flagrant call, that's a different story. But too many men on the ice in that type of a game is.
Yep, terrible. Game 7. Yep. And 1979, and arguably that was one of their great teams because they had been to the finals 2 previous years. So one could consider this the Stanley Cup Finals. No offense to the New York Rangers, but the winner of this series is going to take the cup.
Right, absolutely. You know what I mean? If you got by Montreal, that was like the stepping stone. That if you beat them, you accomplish something, I think.
Yep. Great coach. All right, who's this guy then?
This was a great moment for me because, this is when Bobby had his knee problems and, was kind of, unknown what was going to happen. But this would have been 76 Team Canada. This would have been the first game, I believe, that they played, and it was in Ottawa, and it was against Finland. And the Hockey News had got me access to photograph this game. And, Bobby had struggled a little bit with his knees, and all of a sudden, he comes back and he plays for Team Canada, and he's the best player on the ice, skating on one leg in a roundabout way. And it was just great to see him represent his country, the great player that he was. And then the end result, I believe he was the most valuable player in the tournament. And he played unbelievable. And that was a fantastic team with Espo and Bobby Clark and, the players that were on that team, Potvin. I think Rogie Vachon was there too. It was a phenomenal team. And to be able to see him, representing his country and photographing it was pretty special for me. I mean, the Bank of Nova Scotia had a publication that they were giving out to kids, I guess, that, if they had family open up an account in the child's name, it was called the Hockey College. And Brian McFarland ran that. And one of the pictures from this game was the centerfold spread as well. You know, I had lots and lots of pictures in that publication that came out. But I remember the one of Bobby Orr was pretty cool shot that they used. So,
Wow.
yeah, you know, he was a great player. And, you know, after this, you know, I think he plays a little bit more with the Bruins. I think he tried to play a little bit more, then ended up going to Chicago.
Yeah, because I think if this is Canada Cup 1976, I'm thinking it's August or September. And I should have done my homework of 76, which means he's no longer a Bruin.
Right, 75, 76, Orr left the team from what my notes say. So, I mean, this would have been like, you know, right around that time frame. And, you know, he was struggling with his knee. But, I mean, I was just reading about that, you know, that the players on Team Canada would say that, you know, Bobby could barely walk around the dressing room, you know, and then, but unbelievable, he put his skates on and it was just different, you know what I mean? And it's a shame, you know what I mean? But unbelievable player, unbelievable person, you know?
Yep. And imagine if knee surgery today was available 50 years ago.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had knee surgery in high school, 1968, 69. I had knee surgery on my right knee and they took the ligament out and they just went in, took it out, you know, and you know, today I had knee surgery on my left knee, you know, 3 months ago, and it was I was in and out in the same day, and I'm back. I was up running around and whatever. But in those days, it was just go in, get it done, and then hope for the best. And in my case, it ended up costing me my baseball career.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
but anyway, but yeah, his Bobby.
What year?
Probably the last year that he played only a certain number of games.
10 games, 1977, 75, 76.
Got rid of the pat. Remember they were wearing the bar shoulder with the bicentennial patch, and then they changed to this uniform here, which was a little different style, getting away from the bar and the shoulder. And this is me. This is me on the glass next to some fans, just in an area where I had the goal to my right. There was no hole in the glass. The goal was to my right, and so this would have been probably at an aisle coming down from the loge right there. And, you know, he was right there on the blue line during getting ready for a puck drop, I'm sure. He just was able to get this picture, which I really, really think is a pretty cool picture of him.
Victoriaville. And did he tape his stick?
He put one band of like black tape on the blade of the stick, and maybe 2 at the max. And that was his trademark, you know, from what I gather. So, you know, somebody asked me the other day, hey, I got a Bobby Orr stick. I said, number 1, is it Victoriaville? And he goes, yeah. And I says, does it have any tape on it? And he goes, yeah, it's got a black band of tape on it. I says, well, how'd you get it? He says, I got it from somebody else who gave it to me. I said, well, you know, you might have a real McCoy there.
Wow.
You know? Again, that year, you know, his Orr and Espo, you know what I mean? And
I noticed, Babs, no names on the back of the uniform.
Yeah, no name, numbers on skates. You can see Bobby's number on his skates there.
Oh yeah.
You know, no special blades, all steel metal blades, and I think Espo is wearing the Lang skates, which had come out, and you know, Terry O'Reilly, I think, ended up using those also when he came to the team. But, you know, again, this is that deep hole. So you can see that the angle that I'm at, I have that depth to go down to the other end of the arena. But obviously this is over the blue line at the top of the face-off circle. We just scored. And that might actually be, I'm thinking that could be Brad Park. And it could be Carol Vadney. That's number 10, so that's going to be Carol Vadney to the left. But I'm not sure. Did Vadney and no, we didn't. Vadney,
Brad and Bobby played 10 games together.
Right. So if this is Vadney number 10, then that can't be Park because they traded for those 2 guys, right? Right. So this is another number 22 something, but I believe that's Vadney just based on the height and the little black fluffy hair at the top there.
Yeah, that makes sense. But how many times did these 2 guys, Phil Esposito and Bobby Orr, have this embrace on ice?
Yeah, I've always wanted to go back and see how many goals Esposito scored where Orr assisted, and try to get that stat on when he was with the Bruins. how many goals did Bobby, assist to Phil? Yeah, it was unbelievable. You know what I mean? If Espo planted himself in front of the net, he was going to score if he got a clean shot. You know what I mean? He didn't have to be on the doorstep. He was just there. He was big, hard to move around, and he was a great player too. Great player.
And we mentioned this before, that you have to have some luck, and this guy was a sniper. Esposito was. He had luck, and the puck just went in.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? And and when he had Kenny Hodge and Wayne Cashman digging the puck out of the corner and getting it to him, you know what I mean? And you're worried about getting run over by Cash and getting hit by Hodgie. The forwards, I think, in defense on the other team, that gave Bobby a little more freedom. And if they could get the puck back to Bobby or get the puck to Espo, those two guys just dished it off to one another, and we ended up scoring.
And then I always say, who was the best defenseman in NHL history and the greatest defenseman? And it depends on what day of it, but he's wearing number 7. Who's this guy?
This is a young Ray, and it's probably in the second year because he's got a stash. No A, no C.
Wow. Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, this is Montreal Canadiens. This would have been me sitting in the visiting team's penalty box. That was the year. That was when you had one bench on one side and one bench on the other side. You know what I mean? And so I was on the Bruins bench side, but that's where the penalty box was. It was on that side. Visiting team box was across the ice on the TV camera side. And, I asked permission if I could go into the penalty box and shoot. And they said, it's at your risk. But again, it was like I was in the game. I felt everything. I felt the speed, the wind, the sound, the intensity. And it was just a totally different look at the game from being on the other side of the glass. And, I would have gotten this picture if I was in the corner to the left with a hole. I would have gotten him coming around the net a little bit further back of the net. But now I've got him coming around the net, beating the checker that's forechecking him. And now he's carrying the puck, looking up for a place to pass it, all bingo right there. You know what I mean? He's got the puck on his end of his stick. He's going wicked fast here. And you can also see that I'm kind of somewhat a little bit obstructed by another forechecker coming into the picture, where you can see this other stick that's cutting in front of my lens. So that's another forward that's going by me in the penalty box that's now coming in on the angle of Ray. But Ray probably looks like he's got his eyesight on the left winger going down the far boards with his head up and the puck on the end of his stick. So he probably curls in front of the net and then dishes it off. But, I mean, that angle put me, right in the game. You know what I mean? And,
sure.
It was kind of dangerous. You had to be aware of what was going on at all times because the puck was flying around. Sticks were flying around. This is a magic moment, the last hurrah, which to me was a very emotional moment for me, just being in the building, knowing that this was going to be the last game at the Garden. It was a exhibition game against Montreal, fitting that we would make it a game against Montreal. And, the game was over. We won the game. I believe Don Sweeney scored the winning goal in that game. And then the red carpet came out. The Bull Gang came out. They set everything up. And all the retired numbers were brought down from the catwalk. And whatever players were still with us were there. And family members of the other players that had passed were on the ice. And it was pretty special. My son Brian was there. This would have been 94. So he was there and taking pictures from a bench area where I was on the ice. And, after they did the intro of all the retired numbered players and their families, all the current players were on the bench. This magic moment when Norman Levier was helped out on the ice by Ray and Donnie Sweeney for one last skate around the ice. And Norman and I were very close. We still are. And, for me, it was a very sad moment with his injury that occurred in Vancouver. And, Ray Bork had introduced me to him because he spoke French and Ray spoke French. And when Ray came over to my house one time early in his rookie career, he didn't speak that much French, and his wife came with him, and those two were talking back and forth, looking at pictures. And then I remember Ray introduced me to Norman, and, I went into a practice, and they were getting ready to go on this road trip. And, I sat down with Norman, and I told Norman, I said, when you come back from the road trip, come over to my house, we'll sit down and we'll look at whatever pictures I have of you. And, he was very appreciative of that. And that was a game plan that we had. And I don't remember how many games they played before the Vancouver game. Might've been in LA.
Yeah, I think he played 9 games that season, I think.
Right. So, if it was a road trip, they probably would have went out to LA first, played in LA, then went up to Vancouver, and then came back, Winnipeg, and then into Detroit or Chicago. But, he had that, I believe it was classified as a brain hemorrhage, and it left him paralyzed. But this was just so...
At age 19.
Just so monumental moment for me, knowing that I know these two guys personally, and I know that these two guys are really close, and then the relationship that I was looking for with Norman going forward. I said that he had the speed, he had the skill of like a Conway or a Guy Lafleur. He was probably at that time, looking at his ability, I felt that he was probably the most skilled player that they had on the team from a skating standpoint, speed-wise, and passing. You know what I mean? He was unbelievable. He was really, and it was great. I remember he used to have to get on my toes because in the manual focus days, he was moving a lot faster than the Wensinks and O'Reillys, you see what I'm saying, of the team in those days. But it was, to me, he was the Conway Lafleur of the Boston Bruins, and it put us in a little bit more of a, I don't know, maybe a different direction as far as how we were going to recruit players after that. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And because we were getting out of that Big Bad Bruin era, you know what I mean? And the tough guy, the penalties were now being called a lot, fighting was starting to drift away a little bit, you know what I mean? And it was more about skill. Yeah. So,
and finally, Babs, in this photo, one of my heroes as a hockey announcer, I used to tape his games and listen to him and steal his antonyms, synonyms, adjectives, Bob Wilson. So.
Yeah. Bob's in the background there. And, he was a good friend too. He saw me and we became friends. And I remember doing a couple of photo shoots with him for the press guide, and things like that. And he was one of the best for sure, no doubt about it. One of the best for sure. Got a great little perch area there in the old garden, just hanging maybe 6 or 7 rows off of the ice. Again, you felt like you were in the game right there. And TV 38 was there too at the same time with was it Don Earl and
originally, then Fred Cusick came
in.
And
then Turk
Johnny
Sampson was a commentator for them, and
Johnny Pearsall.
Yep, Johnny Pearson. Yep. So
Johnny Pearson, yeah. So that's great. But just going through your career here and talking about Don Cherry, Bobby, it's been fantastic. And I'd like to come back in our next episode 8, and talk more about the Big Bad Bruins. My name is John Horrigan. We've been joined by legendary sports photographer, the Ansel Adams of sports photography, Mr. Steve Babineau. Babs, thanks a lot, buddy.
Okay, buddy. All the best.
Okay, this is more to the picture than meets the eye. Thanks for joining us.